Hi, welcome to the COVID-19 Lake Norman and North Mecklenburg briefing call. Today is Wednesday, April 15th. It's also typically tax day, but as you all know, that has been pushed out to July 15th. You can still file your taxes now, your federal taxes, or up through July 15th without any penalties or interest. And in the state of North Carolina, you'll have no penalties if you decide to file your state return. And I do believe that there's some legislation being worked to also retroactively waive any interest if you do decide to file late. That's not done yet, so that's up to you if you decide to wait on your North Carolina tax filing. But just want to tell everybody today is typically tax day. My name is John Bradford. I am a small business owner right here in North Mecklenburg County. I have two businesses with about 40 employees between the two companies. I'm a former member of the North Carolina House of Representatives, and I am your briefing call moderator. The purpose of these calls is to bring together healthcare experts, government officials, and business leaders to provide regular COVID-19 briefings to help update, educate, and support the North Mecklenburg region during the outbreak. We still are being asked to slow the spread. And there was a 15-day initiative, and then another 30 days got tacked on. So we are technically in day 30 of a 45-day total initiative to slow the spread. So if you're older, please stay home, stay away from each other. If you're sick, don't go anywhere. And here's two websites, cdc.gov and coronavirus.gov. Great resources to check out on a frequent basis. I encourage you to do that. We are still under President Trump's announcement of practicing social distancing as a requirement through April 30th. And from the graphic on the screen, you can see the way that, just by practicing social distancing can really reduce the number of contagious infections just by practicing social distancing. This has been very popular. We have a company right here in North Carolina. There may be others, but this is one right up the road called Indera Mills. They're a textiles company. They usually make thermal underwear. So think about them in the wintertime when hopefully things are back to normal. But for now, if you need cotton face coverings, these are not N95 masks, but they're $2 a piece. You can buy a 12 dozen minimum order. Here's their phone number. And they do have something set up on a website now. So shopinderamills.com. So hope you'll take advantage of ordering some coverings now that those are needed when we go into stores and from the president. Apple and CDC have a nice little screening tool out there. You can use it. So I encourage you to download that if you think you have symptoms or someone else you know. Here in the U.S., this data is already old, but it's the latest data. Yesterday, 4 p.m., April 14th, we have 579,000 cases in the U.S., with a little over 22,000 deaths. And again, that was from yesterday at 4 p.m. That number's already changed. And as you can see, states continue to get a darker color orange on this heat map that's on your screen. FEMA has a great rumor control website. There's no new rumors to share with you today, but there's a whole bunch of rumors that you ought to go check out. The one that I love to remind all of you is do not fall for someone trying to get your private information in the spirit of sending you a check. The government, the IRS, the U.S. Department of Treasury, they know who you are. They will send you your money, the stimulus money, if you're eligible. So please do not be scammed and check out this FEMA rumor control website. We're still under a state of emergency here in North Carolina. Here's some helpful numbers, 211, as well as this 1-800 number, which is really a 1-866 number. And hot off the press, we have 5,123 confirmed laboratory cases of COVID in North Carolina and 117 deaths. On Wednesday, we were at 86 deaths. So it's gone up in the last 48 hours. And the number of counties that have been impacted is now 93. So, we have 100 counties here, so we're almost all impacted to some extent. North Carolina, we're still under a stay-at-home order until the end of April. And if you need any food assistance, you can text FoodNC to 877-877. North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services is still looking for healthcare volunteers. If you're able to volunteer because you're from the healthcare industry, here's a website you can go to. And for state unemployment benefits, this is for employers and employees alike. If you have questions to seek benefits, please go to this website, des.nc.gov. Mecklenburg County data, there are 993 positive cases and 16 deaths. This is the latest data that I have. Mecklenburg County parks, just because I know that's very popular right now, the county parks are still closed to vehicular traffic. Walk-in and bicycle traffic is still allowed. And remember, there are 2 economic stimulus programs through the county that were basically opened on Monday. The COVID-19 Small Business Emergency Stabilization Loan Fund, which had about $5 million committed to it, and then the Micro Business Stabilization Fund, which had about $1 million for it. These are loans, these are not grants, but it's first come, first serve. I encourage you to go to mecnc.gov to check them out. The Mecklenburg County Public Health Director, Gibby Harris, did put out a presentation. This was shared with me by our wonderful County Commissioner Pat Cotham, who you'll hear from in a few minutes. This just shows some forecasting. The blue line is the current line, that's the actual line. The vertical green line is when Mecklenburg County issued its stay-at-home order. And you can see that red line is the projected curve if we had no intervention. So you can see that, by us being smart, it shows the difference in the curves. And just from a social distancing perspective, the red curve is at 30% social distancing, meaning if 30% of the population were really practicing social distancing, it would show a peak of about May 22nd, but well over 5,000 cases. The 45% curve, which is that gold curve, yellow curve, you can see, comes down to about 3,000 cases with a peak pushed out to June. And if 60% of us really practice social distancing, that curve really gets flat. It's the green curve. And we're looking at, late June where we peak, but we're down to less than 2,000 cases. So this data was put together by not only Mecklenburg County Public Health, but also with Atrium and Novant using the University of Pennsylvania's COVID hospital impact model. So, so what does this tell us, the projections? As expected, there are more cases still coming. There has not yet been a dramatic acceleration in cases, indicating that we might be seeing some flattening, but we need to continue to social and physical distance. That's what is being recommended. And the current models show that even with the stay-at-home order and social distancing, our hospital system could still be overwhelmed sometime in mid-May. So, let's not let our foot off the gas. Let's keep doing what we're doing. And, obviously we need to pay attention to a lot of our supplies on hand. And just for a heat map, you can see this is from April 9th, a few days old, but this is the latest data. In Huntersville, 25 to 39 cases. In Cornelius, 13 to 24 cases, and in Davidson, 0 to 12 cases. And if you normalize those based on population, they're pretty similar percentage-wise. I don't know if Congressman Greg Murphy is with us today. He's very busy. Congressman, are you with us by chance today? Okay, no worries. We always invite him, and I get it. He's a medical doctor. He's also in Congress, so he can't be with us every time. But every Wednesday, we're very lucky to have the district director for the North Carolina office of the United States Small Business Administration. This gentleman's been very popular. I've heard him on the radio. He's been on lots of calls. Thomas A. Stith III. Mr. Stith, the microphone's yours. We'd love to hear from you on what's going on with the SBA.
Thank you, John, and appreciate the opportunity to speak briefly again today. Do want to give initial results. As I talked in the last time, the PPP, or the Paycheck Protection Program, was in the early stages of launch, still early stages, but tremendous response by small businesses across the country and here in North Carolina. The latest numbers that we have on the gross amount of dollars approved for the Paycheck Protection Program, $289.5 billion. It's $289.5 billion and over 1.1 million applicants. That's nationally, the response nationally. The current budget for the Paycheck Protection Program is $349 billion. So obviously getting close to meeting the current appropriation, but still have availability for people to apply for both small businesses and nonprofits, including faith-based organizations. Here in North Carolina, there are over close to 24,000 loans that have been approved, and that translated into a little over $5.7 billion. There is still much work to do, but we are seeing businesses now benefiting from the Paycheck Protection Program. And again, here in North Carolina, a little over $5.7 billion has been approved to close to 24,000 applicants. So we'll continue to encourage small businesses and nonprofits, and I continue to mention also the faith-based organizations, because they have been included as eligible for both the Economic Injury Disaster Loan and the Paycheck Protection Program. We'll also give the listeners, again, if you're interested in any of these initiatives, to go to sba.gov/coronavirus, sba.gov/coronavirus, and that will list all the initiatives available through SBA at this point. Economic injury disaster loans, as we have talked about before, have an advanced component. It is up to $10,000, and I know there's been a little miscommunication in some areas, so it is up to $10,000 for the grant component. The typical review process or guidelines are $1,000 for each employee is a kind of rule of thumb, so that can give people an idea of what they may be potentially eligible for from the advance. We know that EIDL is still having a significant response. We're trying to enhance the turnaround time. Many of the early loan applicants are now seeking some conclusion. So while we have some positive results with the EIDL as well, across the board, we're trying to ensure that our systems and responses are becoming much more efficient. We are seeing some impact, obviously nationally, but in particular here in this state with both the Paycheck Protection Program and the Economic Development Loan. So with that, I'll close and look forward to joining next week, John, to provide additional updates and information.
Thank you. Hey, Director Stith, just one quick question. We've heard Congress is looking at another $250 billion of possible funding for the Payroll Protection Program. Is that a number Congress has picked, or is that a number that the SBA has put forth as what they think is necessary?
I would, and I'm not in those rooms having those conversations, but I imagine, given the significant, it's a collaborative, and that's what we've seen throughout the process, with Congress being very engaged and collaborative with the Small Business Administration, SBA, and along with Treasury. They've been working well together. At this point, there is discussion about an additional $250 billion to increase or add to the Paycheck Protection Program budget. No final decisions clearly on that, but because of the early demand and results of the Paycheck Protection Program, an additional
Director Stith, we lost you. Let's see, can anyone on the call hear me?
I can hear you, John. Can you hear me?
I can. We must have lost the director. So yeah, I think we lost him, but I think we got the gist of that. So so thank you, Director Stith. We lost you, so we'll go back. Congressman Greg Murphy was able to join us, so he's on the call. So I'm going to pivot back to him. Thank you, Congressman Murphy. We were just talking about the $250 billion of possible funding from Congress, and I was just curious. I was asking Director if that was a number the SBA gave Congress, and he was saying that that was something that they were working on together. So anyway, thank you. We'd love to hear an update from you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, John. Again, thank you for doing this. These have been very, very informative, and deeply appreciate you helping folks, because this is the biggest thing that's going on these days is apprehension. People don't understand, or they don't understand what's going on completely, and educating has been so key. So I guess got through a teleconference call. We've done a bunch of these with Congressman McHenry, who has been helpful. He is the ranking member of the Financial Services Committee. And it's helped, this banking program now, the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program, has now been in place for about 10 days. Over $250 billion has been approved for loans. It's obviously, it can be a little bit of a frustrating process. This was a program put together in 1 week. It normally takes the federal government literally 1 to 2 years to put together. So there's been a lot of frustration, but there have been a lot of success stories, a lot more success stories than anything. And so, again, this is not a stimulus package. This is a stabilization practice. And I will tell you this, I've put out some videos, I've written some op-eds. I think it's time now to use the information that we have gleaned and the data that we have learned to look at how we best can actually start opening our economy back up again, doing it in a smart, and I'm a surgeon, but doing it in a very surgical manner. My opinion, individuals who are over 65, especially those who have, chronic diseases, heart disease, lung disease, probably need to stay at home for another month. The same with individuals who are under 65 that suffer from bad diabetes, have had a kidney transplant or something. They probably need to stay home, but I think it's time to let those other individuals come out. I think in a very, very measured manner, barbershops, salons, even restaurants should open up, maybe limiting in restaurants to 4 individuals to a table, having 2 tables apart, making sure that the wait staff wears masks and gloves. But it's time, I think, to learn from what we have so far, to push things forward. The whole reason for wanting to blunt the curve was not only to save lives, but to not overwhelm our hospitals and our medical facilities. I think we've done an excellent job at that. It's been able to give us time for our hospitals and medical facilities to get resources. We're not 100% there, but I think it's time that we can slowly start opening up and having good conversations about how to get our economy started again. So, John, again, thank you for doing all this. It's a critical job that we do as far as educating the folks that are in our districts.
Yeah, thank you, Congressman. Thanks for jumping in off your last call. We appreciate you, and stay safe. And thanks again for everything you're doing for the U.S. and for our state. So much appreciated.
God bless.
You bet. You're very welcome. Thank you. The towns have a 1 o'clock call, so we're going to shift the order just a little bit. So we're going to go to the towns first, and then we'll go to Dr. Faircloth, and then County Commissioner Pat Cotham and Bill Russell. So Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam is a mayor of Cornelius. Woody, are you on the call?
Yes, I am, John.
Okay,
Right
very
here.
good. Well, the microphone's yours, sir. Thanks for joining.
Okay, thank you very much. Not a lot to add other than several pretty cool things happening as it relates to my town and really North Mecklenburg as a whole. This afternoon, the North Mecklenburg first responders are participating with the city of Charlotte to host a parade of lights driving by the North Mecklenburg hospitals and medical facilities. And we're encouraging citizens to drive by as well, just to show their appreciation. But we do hope they'll practice social distancing in the process. So look for that this afternoon, just an act of appreciation for our first line workers there. Also, the mayors, I think pretty much across the county, will be partnering with the JIC, which stands for the Joint Information Center, which includes all of our public information officers throughout the county, to provide a video to be aired this weekend. And I think all the mayors will be hearing from that if they haven't already. But we'll be basically putting out a message of thanking each town's residents for respecting the stay at home and reminding all that, they need to abide by the emergency order and pretty much in this together. I mean, this is a big effort. We've come a long way, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. That will be the general message we'll be giving. So other than that, we continue to plug along with some great stories of benevolence on behalf of many of our citizens to our public safety officers. Things are moving along fine. A lot of big decisions are being made. I just signed a few minutes ago an extension of the emergency order for Mecklenburg County, as the other mayors will be doing as well, which will take us out and align us with the state of North Carolina's date. If the state should extend that order, then the county will follow suit without having to sign a new order, which I think is the right thing to do at this particular point in time. So, but it does align several factors with the state as well, which I believe it's important that we all sing out of the same hymn book at this point in time. So that's all I have right now, John. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, Mayor. Moving on to Huntersville Mayor John Annarella. Mayor, the microphone's yours, sir.
All right, well, thanks, John, and happy April 15th, which used to be tax day and is now July 15th to everybody. Huntersville citizens are continuing to do a great job of social distancing, so I'm real proud of what's going on in Huntersville as well as North Meck. Obviously, the mayor of Washam just stated, I signed as well as the other mayors, an extension of our April 16th stay-at-home ordinance. So that'll go in conjunction with the governor's stay-at-home until April 29th. Also, I'm sure everybody's aware of the new rules that have gone into place for limiting the capacity or limiting the number of the people in retailers that are open. I will share my thoughts similar to Congressman Murphy. I think we need to start having the discussion of how we reopen not only the county, but the state and the United States based on the data that we have. I think when you look at the fact that there are a number of retailers right now that are selling pretty much anything, and there are a lot of other retailers that are competitors of theirs that have been closed for some time. We need to get those mom and pops back up and running. If you have any questions about what's going on with the coronavirus in Mecklenburg County, phone number 980-314-9400. And then finally, I'm hosting a town hall meeting on Monday, April 20th at 3 o'clock. Senator Tom Tillis will be our guest speaker, along with Senator Marcus and county emergency response person. You can go to facebook.com/Huntersville NC town government / and put any questions you have to the panel via Facebook. And then our bi-monthly board meeting will also be virtual at 6 p.m. on Monday. Basically, you will have to submit via email by 12 o'clock that day in order to participate in any of the discussions. But actually, our meeting should be pretty quick due to the fact that it's just going to be talking about the budget. So that's all I have, and I appreciate your time, and have a great day.
Thank you very, very much, Mayor. Moving to the town of Davidson, we have Town Commissioner Matthew Fort on the call. Commissioner Fort, the mic's yours. Commissioner Fort, are you on the call? Okay, we will move on to Dr. Jack Faircloth, who's a medical doctor who is on the ground. And Dr. Faircloth, are you on? Dr. Faircloth, final call. No worries. We're going to go to Mecklenburg County Commissioner Pat Cotham. I know she's on the call. We talked earlier. Commissioner, I'm glad you're here. Why don't you tell us what's going on from the county level?
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you again for inviting me. I do want to just update you on the cases. The latest number I have on the number of cases is 1,015, and that is 22 more than yesterday. And we have 16 who have passed away. So those are the updated numbers. When we had our meeting, I asked the county manager, we had a meeting yesterday afternoon. I asked the county manager for more information about the emergency management operations team. They are the ones who are deciding all of the logistics and the rules. And, you know, I frankly, I really didn't, I guessed who some of them were, but I didn't really know who was on it. So she did, I asked for their contact information, but she gave me a list of their names, but I guess I'll have to go back and ask for the contact information. But if I could just read the people who are on that emergency management operation. It's led by the fire chief, Chief Robert Graham. From the county, Dina Diorio is on it, and Gibby Harris from the health department. From the city of Charlotte, the city manager, Marcus Jones. From CMPD, Deputy Chief Jeff Estes. There are two individuals from Medic. One is Joe Penner, who is the leader of Medic, and there's another man's name, John Studnick. And I did not know that the sheriff, Gary McFadden, is also on the team, and I did not know that Ernest Winston, CMS superintendent, is also on it. Also didn't know that Charleston Carter, who is the trial court administrator, is on this. Our public information person, Danny Deal, is on it, and he is the joint information for all the groups. And then from Novant Health, Dr. Sid Fletcher. From Atrium Health, Dr. James Hunter. And then the town managers are on from Davidson, as you likely know, Jamie Justice. From Cornelius, Andrew Grant. From Huntersville, Anthony Roberts. From Mint Hill, Brian Welch. From Matthews, Hazen Blodgett. And from Pineville, Ryan Spitzer. So those are the individuals who are on it. None of them are elected officials. I just wanted to make that clear, but I did ask for more information. I also asked the manager for more information on the projections. John talked about the graphs that we received showing this curve, and he mentioned that we are using a model based on from the University of Pennsylvania. There's another model that we are not using from the University of Washington. The Pennsylvania model is a little bit more pessimistic than the Washington model. And to give you an example, the University of Pennsylvania model shows the county needing 575 ventilators, while the University of Washington model shows the entire state needing 150. So it's really, very, very different. The interesting thing is that the University of Pennsylvania model, which we are using, allows the user, so it's our team, to input the data points, which affect the model, the curves, and the run of the time. So I have asked, I think it's important that we know about that data that they're inputting, and kind of like, they need to show, one resident said to me, they need to show their work and tell the public what input they're using to build these models. I think we'll all feel better about the models if we know more about how they were created. And I think I told the manager that I thought that the end result of this is that people could be more supportive and maybe even more adamant to continue the social distancing if they better understand how these numbers all came to be. So she appreciated my question and said that she would do that and would get that information back to me and the other county commissioners. So I was happy about that. Let me see if there's anything. I just want to also give you heads up. We were supposed to talk about two other topics at our meeting yesterday, but the coronavirus took up, basically the whole meeting. So we postponed our discussion on the census. So our census numbers are okay, but some areas, especially in the Charlotte region, that Crescent, they were below. So we're going to have to work harder in that area. But I'll keep you posted on that as we do it. And John, I can send you some information on that if you have interest. And
yeah, please do.
And another thing that we did not discuss, which will certainly affect North Mecklenburg, the development there, there's going to be fee increases, and some of them were we talked about this last year from our Louisa group, which is land use and environmental. And I was a little concerned about I was concerned last year about the numbers, and so this is kind of the reality of it. So under the current circumstances, I'm going to ask her when we do discuss it, if we can possibly phase these in as opposed to it right now, because some of them, were some big jumps. So we didn't discuss that yesterday. And frankly, I think we should discuss that more at our regular meeting that has more attendance than our policy meetings. But I just want to give you heads up about that as well. So that was the updates, from the county. I hope that's adequate for your listeners.
It is. It's fantastic, Pat. We just can't thank you enough for all your helpful information. Whatever you have, keep sending it to me. I obviously use those charts in the deck because of what you sent me, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Rhonda Lennon, CMS is out on school break, the only update, spring break, I should say. But I will say, despite being on spring break, if you still need food for your children, that all the food centers are still open despite it being spring break. And now we're going to go to the CEO of the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Bill Russell. Mr. Russell, the microphone is yours, sir.
Thank you, John. John, we had a great program yesterday from John Maxwell. John Maxwell, as you know, is a leading motivational speaker and author on leadership. And the program was put together by Dan Houston, who is a Huntersville business coach. And it's a four-part mastermind program. Yesterday's was battling distraction through crisis. And a couple of points, and I just want to share this with some of the listeners that are listening today. One of the things that Maxwell said is just because your sky is falling doesn't mean your sky is falling. And always put people first and don't let fear dominate you. And I thought those were some really, really great points that was brought out. That program was taped and will be up on the Chamber's website, perhaps today, but at least in the next couple of days. And then we have another one scheduled. I believe the next program is tomorrow. And you can register via the Chamber's website. You don't have to be a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and we encourage people to take part in that. On Friday, we have a special Focus Friday. We're very excited about that. There's an 8:30 program with Elaine Powell, who is our District 1 County Commissioner, and she's going to be speaking about what's going on, just as Pat alluded to many things going on within the county. Elaine is the Vice Chair of the County Commission, and she will be sharing information not only about the county, Parks and Recreation, and other things. Eileen Joyce is with the Small Business Administration, and she's going to be talking about some of the programs that are available for small businesses right now, some of the assistance that we've talked about with the First Families and the CARES Act. And if there is a fourth rendition, I haven't heard yet if that's been approved, but if and when it is, we'll be talking about that as well. But that program is going to be on Friday, and Jeff Tart, who is our Public Policy Chair, he'll MC that. You can register via Zoom, or it will be taped again like everything else that we do, placed on our website and sent out via social media. Again, we're continuing to put information just relative to our small businesses and the assistance on our Chamber website. We encourage you to go there at lakenormanchamber.org. Again, that's lakenormanchamber.org. Our Chamber of Commerce, we have right at 850 business members in the Huntersville, Davidson, Cornelius, and Greater Lake Norman region. We're there to serve them, but we want to take care of all of our member businesses. And we encourage you to continue to go out, support our businesses, support the restaurants that are open. There's a list of our Chamber members on the website at lakenormanchamber.org. But Visit Lake Norman has taken great detail to go in and update the list of all Cornelius, Davidson, and Huntersville restaurants that are on the website. You can see that on our website, or there's at visitlakenorman.org. They've also created a virtual tip jar. If you have a restaurant that is your favorite and you want to take care of a server, you can go on to that virtual tip jar. And again, big accolades and kudos for them for setting that up. Thank everybody for their support of our small business community, and we'll get through this. And every day that we wake up, we're one day closer to this being behind us. And again, thank you, John, for what you're doing.
You bet. And as a long-standing member of your chamber, as a business owner here, I think the chamber is showing great leadership for all the things you're doing, Bill. I know these things don't happen magically, so thank you for your leadership and for your board. And as a business owner right here in North Mech, we appreciate you, so thank you.
John, this is Pat Cossum. Could I add one thing?
Yes, please, go for it.
Okay, thank you. I forgot to mention this, and I think it is important. I did hear from an attorney representing some clients in the Davidson area, and it was regarding if they could be open or not. They had been, it was, from what I could tell, it was some kind of a convenience store that also sold or heavily sold tobacco and vaping products. And they had a letter from the Department of Revenue that said that they would be allowed to be open. And from my understanding is, in the past, that was like the Bible of these decisions, a letter from the Department of Revenue. But that the county or the emergency management operations came back and said they could not be open. And then we received yesterday a letter from the Department of Revenue that they would yield to the local governments. So the local government, which is, again, the Mecklenburg County and this emergency management operations, their decision overrides the Department of Revenue from the state. So that didn't make these businesses very happy, but I just wanted to give you that update.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we learned early on that the more restrictive order is the one that dictates. So
Right.
if the state order says one thing, but your local order is more stringent, then you would follow the more stringent order. So that's exactly what you're saying there. So, well, thank you for sharing that update with us, Pat. That's
Okay.
very helpful.
Thank you.
You bet. Just Huntersville Chamber, again, we always invite them. I've had an open invitation. So if you're a Huntersville Chamber member, there's their website. I'm sure there's some helpful information for you there. And the CEO, Bill Russell, of the Chamber, talked about Visit Lake Norman and their virtual tip jar. This is a fantastic idea. So if you'll go to visitlakenorman.org/restaurants or /restaurants, you can tip someone. Every time you log on, there's a new person there that's going to receive the tip. So it's a great virtual way to help someone in the hospitality and food industry, even though you might not be physically interacting with them. I always want to thank our all of our panelists. I'm John Bradford, your moderator. We've had, Commissioner Pat Cotham has been on every single call. Mayor Woody Washam, Mayor John Anarella, Bill Russell have been on every single call. Thomas Stith with the SBA joined us every Wednesday. He has joined us religiously every Wednesday. Congressman Greg Murphy has been on most of our calls, and we can imagine he's extremely busy. Dr. Jack Faircloth has been on almost all of the calls. So it's just been a great group of panelists, and we can't do this without them. Our next briefing will be Friday, April 17th. Email lkntogether@gmail.com. Keep your emails coming in. That's lkntogether@gmail.com. We are stronger together. I want you to take care of yourself, take care of each other. Thank you for listening. This does conclude today's briefing call. Thank you.